right, so welcome everybody to our expert panel. We have a phenomenal panel this evening of some very, very amazing and incredible web developers. Before we get started, just our little Devant spiel. If this is the first Devant event you are attending, welcome. I recognize some of the names, so some of you are returning attendees, so thank you so much. It's our goal here at Devant to help international students and graduates stay, work, and succeed in Canada. Our name Devant comes from the French word, which means to get in front of, and that is our aim to you. We want to get you in front of employers. We want to get you ahead of the competition, and we want to help you build your career here in Canada. At least I have been told that's what Devant means in French. I do not speak French, and nobody has ever corrected me in the chat. So if that's incorrect, let me know. And we do host events every single Wednesday. Some housekeeping, if you have not already noticed, you are muted and you do not need to use your camera. So feel free to get comfortable on the couch or in bed or wherever and just chill and listen. This session is being recorded. I will upload it tomorrow to the Devant YouTube channel, and you should get an email notification when that has been uploaded with the link. However, sometimes it goes to your spam, so I would just recommend subscribing to the Devant YouTube channel, which I can pop in the chat in a little bit. You can please use the chat function and the Q&A if you have any specific questions that you would like our wonderful panel to answer. And like I said, we host events every single Wednesday. Here are some of our upcoming events. If you are an international student who is a little bit worried and freaking out right now about the recent IRCC cap, we are hosting a bonus event on Monday. Usually we only host events on Wednesdays, but we're hosting a bonus event on Monday with our phenomenal immigration lawyer, Elizabeth Long, who's going to answer all of your questions about that because I know people are freaking out about it. So we've got you covered. My screen is in the way. I can't see what's next. On February 14th, if you would like to join our Optimizing Your LinkedIn event, I don't know if you want to spend your Valentine's Day learning about LinkedIn as a career coach. That sounds very exciting to me. I don't know about the rest of you. We have our Devant Career Cafe on February 21st. It is a special edition career cafe for our Get Hired at Home prep. I'll post the link to Get Hired at Home, but if you have not already signed up and you're job searching, I would highly recommend it. It is kind of like a career fair hiring event and networking event that is all online. And February 28th, we have our monthly regular edition of our immigration Q&A, and Elizabeth is going to be talking about how to work in Canada and get PR if you want to be an entrepreneur and work for yourself. So without further ado, I have talked enough. I want to introduce you to our wonderful panel. So my name is Keelan. I am a career coach here at Devant, but tonight I'm going to be serving as your moderator. We are here with Owen Craig, who is a senior developer at Clio. Did I say that correctly? Clio, who is also one of my previous coworkers who I absolutely adore. We have Shaishav Vashi, who is a web developer at Tyrie?
Tiari, it's like a tiara.
Tiare. Thank you. Who is also somebody I have worked with in the past, who I also adore. And Audra, who is a developer at Loblaw, who unfortunately I do not know very, very well, but she seems absolutely incredible and wonderful. So I'm going to pass it over to Owen to give a little introduction of yourself.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yes, I know Audra very well and can confirm that Audra is also amazing. Hi everyone. I am a senior developer at Clio. My name is Owen Craig, pronouns he, him. I've been in the industry for quite a few years. I am a bootcamp grad. I graduated in 2016, where I went on to work at a digital agency called ICF Next. I worked there for a few years before I started teaching at Juneau College of Technology, and I taught there for a few years. And more recently, I've transitioned back into coding, where I work at Clio for the marketing team, technically. So if you look at the Clio website, that is the thing I work on. It's enormous. Beyond that, because I do not feel our jobs define us, I'm a huge movie watcher, Fan of the TV show Survivor. I have 2 cats, and I am absolutely madly in love with my nephews and niece, who I talk about all the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Owen. Can confirm that Owen is a big film lover, and I would recommend following him on Letterboxd. Shaishav.
All right, so I am Shaishav and I came to Canada about 22 months ago. And I came here, I landed as a PR. And when I landed here, I used to be an animator, after which I went to a boot camp. And after I graduated that boot camp, Owen was one of my instructors. So after I graduated that boot camp, I got this job at TRE. Now, TRE is a jewelry store. It started in about 2018, and when it started, you could not customize your jewelry. You could choose a pre-made ring. With what this website offered was you could design your own ring, you could choose your stone, you could uh, choose the engraving and everything as if you are talking to a real person in an actual jewelry store. Now, it is an amazing website, and the engineering that goes behind it is awesome. But it's also a nightmare sometimes when you have to fix stuff. So I have been adding some features to this website, like helping the creators and like my bosses out with uh, maintaining the website, solving taxation problems, solving jewelry problems. It's harder than what I imagined it would be, but it's also an adventure. And yeah, I have been doing this for the last 8 months. Other than that, I still try to animate and sketch whenever I can. And Keelan used to be my at the job search advisor. So thank you so much, Keelan. I have this job because of you. Yeah.
You have the job because of you, Shaishav. You are incredibly talented and also an incredible illustrator. So I would encourage you to check out some of Shaishav's illustrations as well. And last but not least, the wonderful Audra.
Hello. So I'm Audra. My pronouns are she and her. I started my career as a teacher, graduated from teacher school, and then went, no, thank you, hard pivot into tech. I also did the boot camp at Juneau College of Technology. And my last week was right when the COVID lockdown happened. So everything changed very, very fast, very, very quickly. I was fortunate enough to work with Owen as one of his mentors for a class he was teaching, also at Juneau. And I got a co-op position at Loblaw Digital, which was supposed to be 8 months, and I have just never left. I'm now an intermediate developer there, working on accessibility. If you've ever ordered groceries through PC Express, I helped build that. So yeah, besides tech, I'm a big crocheter. I also have a cat who will probably start screaming at some point. And yeah, definitely a movie fan, but more superheroes for me.
Thank you so much, Audra. I also have a cat who you will hear screaming if you have ever had a Zoom call with me or joined a Devon event. You have heard her. I apologize. She is part of my personal brand at this point. So, all right, give me 2 seconds. I'm going to pull up our questions and we will get started. But to our wonderful audience, if you do have any specific questions for our wonderful panel, please feel free to pop them in the chat or the Q&A box. All right, Shaishav, I am going to start with you. Did you pursue a formal education in computer science, or are you self-taught, or maybe a combination of both? And how do you think this impacted your career?
Okay, so I have a degree in electrical engineering from India, and I did not train in coding at that point. I started freelancing and for in animation. In animation, you would use a software called Blender. Sometimes you need Python to make scripts in Blender to make 3D stuff like FX Fire or something like that. If you are familiar with that, you would know. I learned to make basic stuff in Python using those, and I thought I was a programmer. But I realized very soon that I had gaps in my education, which is why I did a boot camp and it gave me a solid foundation. It gave me some structure, and it also helped me realize like how to break down complex problems into solutions. So that is how I learned programming. So no, I think I don't have formal education. I'm not completely self-taught as well, but yeah, just a lot of friends and a boot camp. Um,
Great, thank you. Second part of that was, how do you think that has impacted your career, if at all?
I think that learning from a lot of people, learning from a boot camp, okay, the way you learn in a boot camp is you are in cohorts, which means your instructors and your friends are your biggest allies in making projects. You learn to break down problems in a certain way. You learn to ask questions to your friends, you learn to discuss in groups, you learn using group projects. Everything you do is together. So I think that has impacted my career really well. I would totally recommend if you can attend a boot camp, attend a boot camp. Uh, I would also, I also would say that if I were to choose between a formal 4-year bachelor's degree in computer science versus a boot camp, I would choose the second option with a lot of client experience, like talking to real people, asking them what kind of websites they want to make, and trying to help them out with the knowledge that I have. Uh, if that helps, I guess.
Perfect. Thank you, Shaishav. Maybe we can throw in a bonus question here. For people who are in a 4-year degree or they are in college, this question's for anybody on the panel. I don't want to put pressure on you, Shaishav. Do you have any advice on maybe how to get that hands-on practical experience in more of a traditional environment?
Okay, so I would recommend if there is any way that you meet other programmers who do real jobs in a real life setting. What has helped me was joining groups in Toronto. I am assuming everybody here is in Canada. If you're not, you can join an online group. But if you are in a city like Toronto or Edmonton or Vancouver or anything, you will have designated groups like Stack Exchange or Tech Tank or something like that. You can just go to one of those. You can like code with them for a code morning or something, and you can bond with them. Any other way would be okay, here's what I have done. I have made profiles on Fiverr, Upwork, and all those freelancing websites. You can try that. It's not the best way, I would say, but that's also one of the ways you can get a project if you are in need of one. And I have also called people on their phone on Google Maps. So you can just call them and say, okay, I think your website can be better. Do you want to invest on a website? And you will engage in a conversation. Sometimes it helps. It has gotten me into discussions, but it has never gotten me into a real contract. But it certainly helped me. Yeah, I hope that.
Yeah, Owen, take it away.
I also want to say, we're going to talk a lot about our experiences in this panel because that's why we're brought here. But there are so many paths to all of this. There's the boot camp path. There's the 4 years of university path. I also know people that had no formal training whatsoever that are wildly successful. One of the people who taught me was entirely self-taught by going to Indigo on his lunch break and reading books. So don't feel like you've chosen a wrong path. If you're like, oh no, they said this, they said that. There are so many paths to do this. And it's not a matter of choosing the right or wrong one. It's a matter of making the most of the path you are on.
Amazing. Thank you, Owen. Putting your teacher hat on. I love it. All right, Shaishav, one more question for you. What challenges do you face on a regular basis in your career? Maybe have you faced in the past? And how have you or how do you continue to overcome those challenges?
Okay, so a little bit about the problems that I have solved, TRE. One is I solved a taxation problem. Uh, I did not understand taxation and I did not understand how to code taxation. So how right amount of tax based on where you are shopping from. In USA, there is different kind of tax for every province. That detail is very important because you don't want double taxation. If it's a Canadian company, whether it's a Canadian company under a US based company, so uh, that was one problem. The other was facing Google Analytics, Instagram, and Facebook feeds, which means your product should be visible on Google feeds in order for Google to even show that your site exists or your page exists. That is one of those things. I also spent a lot of time talking to vendors. Now, vendors are like a different breed of creature, so I'll tell you a little bit about them. But to answer your question, on a daily basis, I know that I have at least one person that I have to talk to who is trying to help me solve a problem. If it's a vendor, then there will be a tech person from their end. If it's a tax problem, then I will have access to an accountant. If there is Instagram or Google, I'll be talking to a marketing person or somebody like that. So what we have to do is we have to sit down. I have to ask them a lot of questions about what is it that you are trying to do? What is it that you can do yourself? What is it that you cannot do yourself? I write down detailed notes, then I come up with something that I can make for them. And I ask them, will this be enough or will this be is this not good enough or something? And based on their feedback, we just build it little by little by little. And over the course of a month or so, you get a feature, you get a system, or you get something that works out, like that solves the problem. That is how I have done it for the last 8 months. The habits that I have made are just reading a lot of documentation. I had this urge to chat GPT everything. I don't recommend that. Just start reading. It's a better habit, I would say. And just going to the library and working from there. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Shaishav. I love how the fact that you work in more of like a startup environment means that you have to wear many different hats. You have to work with marketing, you have to work with welders. And yeah, I think those are things that people don't really think of when they think of web developers. So thank you. And I think that segues us very, very nicely into our next question, which I'm going to ask Audra. Beyond technical skills and coding, what soft skills would you consider essential for a career in web development?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I mean, we could talk about like organization or like follow through. But for me, my top three are communication, flexibility, and a willingness to grow. In terms of communication, you are constantly interacting with other people. As previously mentioned, like you're either talking to vendors or a project manager, maybe your own manager or a senior trying to get help with something. And being able to communicate thoughtfully and effectively is really important. Our work uses Slack, and so sometimes the communication is asynchronous. Sometimes you are providing feedback on a code review or receiving feedback on a code review. And so being able to communicate clearly, whether in text or on a call, sometimes even you send people like screen recordings with little voiceovers, is really important because you want people to understand both what you're doing, but also what you're trying to do, so they can help you to the best of their ability. The second one, flexibility and adaptability. I onboard a lot of people. That tends to be my little pet project. And the people who I see who are most successful at our company and just in general are people who are willing to adapt to the environment that they're in. Obviously, make changes if there's improvements to be made. But I think some people come and they're so focused on trying to prove that they know their stuff that taking feedback becomes difficult and they get kind of stuck. So being able to adapt, whether it's how you're communicating or maybe someone wants to code something slightly differently and it's not wrong, it's just different, I think is really important, just not getting stuck, which also feeds into willingness to grow because tech is constantly changing, it's constantly evolving. And so if you do kind of get stuck, it can be hard to fully expand your knowledge. It can be hard to take feedback, and we're always growing as people, as developers. You're never going to know everything, and you shouldn't have to. That's why you have a team. So being willing to reach out, take that feedback, and challenge yourself and grow.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Audra. Did you guys collaborate beforehand? Because basically all the soft skills you said are things that Shaishav was talking about and the challenges that he faces. And I'm sure Owen is going to echo a lot of the same things when we get to him. So amazing. One more question for you, Audra. What advice would you give to people who are aspiring to pursue a career in web development? And we also got a very, very similar question in the Q&A. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting their career in web development?
I think, obviously picking a lane, if you want to go like front end, back end, full stack, I don't think you have to decide fully what you want to do for the rest of your life, but just having like a direction, somewhere to kind of aim can help whittle down like what languages you're learning. As I said, there's a lot to learn in tech. And so if you have a direction to start on, you can at least start learning. And then if you decide, you know what, I hate this, I never want to touch this again, you can course correct and go in a different direction. But at least you kind of, you will not only have the knowledge that you decided you didn't like, but now you know like what you want to move towards. I think also having a sense that like you are valuable and you do know what you're talking about. Tech is huge, and it's one of those things where the more you learn that you have so much more to learn. And so like feeling confident in the knowledge that you do have and knowing that like you are valuable. And like one of your biggest skills isn't that you know everything, it's that you know how to learn and you know how to like adapt, and you also know what you don't know, so you know when to come and ask for help. And also like as someone who completely switched careers, I think it's important to realize that like your skills and your experience and your education are never wasted. Things that I learned, being a teacher still come into play today. Nothing I've done, even like babysitting, tutoring, like it all kind of comes back and you draw from it. And yeah, so like, please, no education is ever wasted. So as Owen said before, regardless of what path you took, it's a valuable path. And so kind of having that knowledge with you, because tech is hard, but you're valuable, your skills are valuable, and you will do the thing and do good at it.
Thank you so much, Audra. So inspirational. I think all of you are career changers in a way, actually. So Audra came from teaching. Shaishav, I know you came from 3D animation. Owen, what about you? I know I don't remember what your background was in, but I know you kind of made a switch.
I went to university for theater. Yeah, I didn't actually want to do it in the end, but I did go to university for it.
And now that background makes you an absolutely outgoing and incredible developer who everybody adores.
That's a lot. You're muted again. Pardon me.
Thank you. I have a habit of muting myself because you can hear Laveau screaming in the background. Over to you, Owen, for one of your questions, which I think will connect well maybe with your theater background, actually. How important do you think networking is in the web development industry? And if it is important, do you have any tips for successfully networking?
Okay, so I want to preface by saying I don't want to scare anyone here because I understand you're all emerging in the industry. But my answer is that networking is incredibly, incredibly important. A lot of people these days have talked about how difficult the job market is, and one of the things that can really help you move to the top of the pile is a referral. Now, referrals can happen a lot of ways. One of the most common is if you have a good friend or someone you've worked with. Those are invaluable. Those are huge. I would say that it was a referral that got me, into the interview process at Clio, where I currently work. I got that interview because of someone I'd worked with previously at ICF. Now, I don't want to tell you that you have to know people to get a job. That's simply not true, but it helps, and it can help a lot. It will also not get you the job. You still have to do the work when you get in there. You still have to do the interviews and the tech tests and what have you. That's where people like Keelan come in to help you with all that stuff. But networking is really, really helpful when it comes to the job hunt. It means that you can get your resume to the top of a stack. It means that you can hear about jobs you might not otherwise hear about. So I'm going to speak a little bit to that, but then I want to make it clear it is not the be all and end all. So the reason I want to bring up how important networking is because the ability to show your best self to the people you work with, the people you know, that stuff matters. I have worked with people that I would never, ever refer them. You don't want to be that person. So make sure that you value those interactions. The person that referred me to the job I got, I'm not sure I actually ever worked on a single project with her. She just happened to like me from being around the office. So that's great. That's really, really helpful. Beyond referrals, though, I do want to point out that not everyone has that luxury, especially a lot of you who are looking to break into the industry. You can't lean on referrals from a job you've had because probably a lot of, if not most of you, have not worked a job in the industry. So I don't want to come in here and tell you that you all desperately need a referral that you probably can't actually have yet. It's not possible. Does that mean you're out of luck? Absolutely not. There still are other avenues you can explore. There are meetups. There are coffee chats. You know, this is something I want to sort of put very gently. You can reach out to people in LinkedIn and say, hey, I see that you work at such and such. I'm sort of interested in them. Do you have a moment to talk to me? There's a huge caveat to that, which is the answer might be a hopefully respectful no. And that is not because they don't like you. That is not because what you're doing is wrong. It's simply because the person may not have time. I say this as someone who my work just opened up a job posting a couple months ago, and I have never got so many LinkedIn messages in my life. Oh my goodness. I ended up just basically like getting some advice that I would copy and paste into all the responses just because if I had a coffee chat with every single person, I wouldn't get my job done. So don't let that dissuade you from trying. I think it's well worth it. Just be aware you may not get the answer you're looking for at this moment. So you have avenues you can explore. You can have sliding into someone's LinkedIn DMs. You have the option of going to meetups, which is a great opportunity to talk to people in the industry. The other option is if you have gone to school. You likely would then have classmates, teachers, whatever. Um, I know that this is a case for a lot of people. I've recommended a lot of people I worked with at Juno. I've recommended a lot of people that mentored with me at Juno. I've recommended a lot of former students. These are things that can help. If you have been to school, you may have teachers, you may have mentors, you may have classmates. That's also great. Earlier, Shaishav was talking about some of the advantages of a boot camp. One is that you get a lot more personal time with other students. I can't speak to all universities, but a lot of universities will have these auditoriums, 200-300 people, and you don't really know them. If you're in one of those, and still in, I know some of you are finished, but if you're in one of those, take the time to get to know a couple people in your class. It can really, really help. That FaceTime with your classmates can help with referrals. It can help with recommendations. It can help with, hey, I heard about this job. It matters. So I would say absolutely lean on those personal connections because they can really come into play later in your career. And for the love of goodness, when you get that job, be nice to the people at work because if they have your back, it makes all the difference in the world. It can be sometimes the difference between a 2-month job hunt and a 2-year job hunt if people have got your back. So yeah. One last thing before I hand it over to Keelan, I'm sorry I talk a lot, is I know that what I said is not going to necessarily be possible for everybody. People have different levels of comfort when it comes to social interactions. Some people might be introverted, some people might have anxiety. I understand that. I want to be so clear it's not the only way to get a job. And if it's something you're simply not comfortable doing, you can still get a job. It just might mean that you have to explore some other paths a little more.
Thank you, Owen. Amazing, incredible advice. But yeah, if you are struggling with networking, I know that that is something that a lot of our attendees say week after week in these events that networking is the scary thing for them. I'm going to plug other Devon events. Our career cafe would be a very, very good one to go to. We also have the LinkedIn one coming up. If you're uncomfortable with messaging people on LinkedIn, maybe because you don't know what to say or your profile is not up to date, I would definitely recommend attending those. Also, somebody messaged me yesterday on LinkedIn. I have in my about section, I have a little line about how I like my cat, how like in my free time, you can find me with my cat. And somebody started a conversation with me on LinkedIn yesterday saying like, tell me about your cat. And I have never responded to a LinkedIn message so fast in my life. So even just like starting a conversation like that, it really helps break the ice. Networking does not have to be like this scary thing. It's really just talking to people.
Hot tip, just slide into my DMs and ask which season of Survivor you should start with. I'll answer.
Yeah, okay, amazing. One more question for you, Owen. This is the last of our pre-prepared questions. So I know we have a couple in the chat, but if you do have any questions that you would like to ask our amazing knowledgeable panel, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. Do you have any tips on someone looking to stand out in what is right now a very competitive job market?
I absolutely have very strong feelings about this. So the thing about the job hunt is it is fundamentally dehumanizing. It's something we've all been there. We've all seen it. You feel like you're just a number. You get those form letter replies, and you start to feel like you aren't yourself. You're just one in a huge one snowflake in an avalanche. I don't know. I strongly urge people to fight that feeling because, in my opinion, your best secret weapon in the job hunt is your personality. We've all got them. Every one of us has a personality. I don't care if any of you right now are going, oh, not me. No, you do. You do have a personality. And of course, there's things that are top level important, your skills, your experience, whatever. Yeah, that stuff matters. But the one thing I think that gets overlooked is when you actually approach the job hunt process with a certain amount of personality, you suddenly stand out more. This is something that I find is so important because a lot of these people doing the interviews have interviewed 2, 5, 10, God forbid, 20 people, and they start to bleed together. But if you have some sort of hook that you can stand out, it can sometimes be the difference between getting and not getting that second interview. If you're the one who talked about whatever, you're the one who wore whatever, probably don't wear anything unprofessional, but it's something a little interesting. It can stand out. So when let me just, if I may, I'm just going to talk about Survivor for a second, and I have a point. I promise you. So for those who don't know, really, really short version, it's a TV game show. People compete. They want to win $1 million. I'll leave it there. Now, on that show, you can exceed at physical challenges. You can exceed at strategic planning, or you can succeed in a social game. People have won by being strong in any one of those three things. My point is this. Just like in Survivor, in the job hunt, there's more than one way to win. You can win any number of ways. You can get that job based on your experience. You can get that job based on an amazing tech test. Sometimes you can get that job based entirely on your personality. I say this from experience. So by letting that personality shine, you can approach the job hunt from a different path. Now, I'm not saying it is a substitute for skills. You still have to have the skills. But I, as was alluded to earlier, am a former theater student. That is not impressive on a resume when applying for a job in tech. Nobody's saying, oh, we've got to hire the theater student. But rather than try and bury that, I used that to my advantage. I would walk into interviews and I'd say, yeah, I'm a former theater student. You know what that does? That makes me great at communication. That makes me great at collaboration. That makes me great at pivoting when things get tough. Remember all those things that Audra was talking about? I can speak to those things. Take your past, take your personality, take what some might consider a weak point in your resume and turn it into a strength, because there is more than one way to win. You can absolutely use what some might consider a negligible part of all of this and make it the main selling point. And I've done this over and over again. This background I have is not by chance. It is full of things that I can point to make myself stand out. In a job interview, someone said, "Hey, is that a copy of Bone?" I said, "Yes, it is." That person was interested in comic books. We talked about comic books. They hired me. Was it because I had that there? Probably not. Did it help? Absolutely. So never underestimate that every single one of you listening right now, you have something in your personality, your interests, your past that you can use to help stand out. Find what that is and learn how to speak about it. That is my recommendation for you. And Colm, start with Survivor season 37, David versus Goliath. It's an absolute banger.
Owen, thank you. I feel like I'm gonna cry. That was so inspirational. Audra, I saw you nodding along with Owen. Anything to add?
Yes, I would like to kind of reinforce what Owen said. I'm gonna ruin that beautiful ending. I'm so sorry. But I have gotten 2 jobs, or at least re-interviewed for 2 jobs. The first one, I was in university, and it was a group interview with over 100 people, and it was an 8-hour interview, like 8-hour day.
Sorry to interrupt. I hate this. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. And it wasn't for tech, it was like for a resident advisor position. But it was like 100 people, 8 hours. And so you had about 15 interviewers. And at the time, I had bright pink hair. And so for the entire day, when people were trying to reference me in conversations with each other, they could easily identify me. And so afterwards, and I got hired, I was actually told in like a feedback session with my now boss, yeah, one of the things that was great about you was you stood out. And like, you were capable. We hired you because you were capable, but in a sea of people, we could find you and we could watch you. So however you stand out, and in my interview with Loblaw Digital, I make really bad like dad jokes when I get nervous. And one of the values of Loblaw Digital is ship often, commit your work often, whatever. And I put it in there that I was not afraid of commitment, and presently like paused for effect as the interviewers laughed. And like it felt like a really stupid move. And I spent the next like 20 minutes after the interview going, oh no, what did I do? What did I do? But it turned out they remembered that and they went, she's probably fun to be around. She's still qualified, as Owen said. Like that wouldn't have gotten me the job. But it was enough of a standout that they were like, okay, like I could work with her. Like this could be fun. So yeah, definitely lean into your weird.
Thank you, Audra. Shaishav, I don't want to call you out. Please feel free, if you do not have an answer, you can pass. No pressure.
I just lost you there for the last second.
I said I don't want to call you out. If you don't want to answer, you can pass. But I know that there might be some international students in the audience right now thinking that maybe in their home country, in interviews, you don't show a lot of personality. You don't want to stand out. It's very professional. And again, I don't want to call you out, but I know this is a conversation that we've had in the past. So do you have any advice, like specifically for international students, about not being afraid in the interview?
I can say a little bit about how I used to be, and I used to be all about the business. So anybody I looked at in their face, I would just ask them, okay, what do you need? And without introducing myself, without like whatever you need, just tell me, I'll make it for you. That used to be my attitude, and that didn't really take me very far with interviews. They wanted to get to know me as a person. They wanted to like know what I was interested in, whether I could grow with them in their team or not. And it took me a while. And when I say a while, it's like 3 months, I guess, to get used to the small talks, the mannerisms, like just having a conversation with an interviewer and discussing about things other than work and how you can actually stand out, I would say. In that. For example, I interviewed with the director of baseball systems, the in Blue Jays. Toronto Blue Jays is like it's everybody knows Toronto Blue Jays. So they were hiring a developer to work on their video platform. They wanted to make one of those slow-mo videos where the ball comes slowly and the guy hits like this. So they wanted somebody who one of the people would work in one of those teams. And I was chosen for the interview, so I was really happy. And it like after a lot of training from Keelan, the first line I said to the director of baseball systems is, "I'm from India. I don't know baseball. I know how to make a website. I don't know baseball." 2 months later, the guy replies to me, "Oh, we are not hiring you because we need somebody who knows baseball." Now it's just yeah. So that was a hard-earned lesson, though the conversation was much larger than that, and they also encouraged me to work on my 3D assets because the baseball visualization had that thing. But that's not the point. The point is train yourself to be more to have a conversation and not have a transaction. That's what I would say. Uh, I mean that's all I learned from Keelan, and it took me months. So I hope it's a faster process for you guys.
That's a really great point, Shaishav. And I like what you said about it's a conversation, not a transaction. This is something I want to add. I know this is absolutely near impossible to do when you are looking for that first job in an industry, but I strongly encourage you. Uh, Interviews are not just one way. You are also seeing if you want to work with them. And I understand there's financial ramifications. A lot of you are looking for to stay in this country. It is complicated. It's more complicated than I'm making it out to be. But I do want to stress that there is a certain amount of that. And if you can shift your mindset a little bit into the headspace of, I'm also checking them out. This isn't just me asking them for a favor. This is a date. We're seeing if we click. We're seeing if there's chemistry. That can add some of that naturalism that can help you stand out, help you show your real personality. It's a difficult thing to do, but if you can pull it off, I think it's going to make a world of difference.
Thank you so much, Shaishav, and thank you, Owen, for
Uh,
adding. Yeah,
and can I add one more thing?
of course.
So before this panel, I had a talk with my boss, and I told him like I'm going to present something about helping people get a job. Since you are my boss and you hired me, like tell me why did you hire me? And he said that okay, so he pointed out a couple of things. One is social fit. So he has a certain amount of values, like he's someone who wants to encourage sustainable jewelry, like the diamonds that don't come from warlords, or the diamonds who which are clean, like which are made in a sustainable environment. That's very important to him. If the candidate he is interviewing is also passionate about sustainability in the environment, he would consider that candidate. So I think he got that from me. The other thing is the only thing he got from the work samples that I showed him was like whether he could trust me or not. So he said like just because you showed me these things, we needed these things, so I trusted that you could actually create those things. So that's the only thing they want. Trust is a major factor. Make sure you convince them that they can try to get a job. So go to a place and tell them that you're going to provide them a solution, which means don't say this is wrong in your company, this is wrong in your company, this is wrong in your company. Just realize what's wrong. That's valuable, but it's not what helps him. He says here's what you should do. You should see the problem, take a moment, and then see if you can solve it. If you can solve it, tell them that, okay, here's the things that I propose to solve for you guys. Uh, like, how does that sound to you? Do you want to go forward with my proposition? If you speak like that, that helps him. So that's his 2 cents.
Amazing. Thank you, everybody, for sharing such wonderful insights. Very inspirational. I think all of you, if you want to make yet another career pivot, could find careers as an inspirational speaker in the future. We have one question that kind of segues into from what Shaishav was saying about the portfolio that you showed your now boss. Somebody's asked how to make a good web development portfolio. They come from a UX UI design background. They only have a few projects from their postgrad to show, and they want to know how to showcase them. Any advice for your portfolio? Does anybody still have their portfolio? Can you share it?
I can actually give a real life example but I don't want to take Audra's and Owen's real estate. Like, yeah. Okay, so the thing is, we needed a designer, a UX designer, like a month ago because we didn't have any. So the way it works is, my boss, she has been an executive in Tiffany for 25 years. Then she asks me to write down, okay, so we have this assortment of new diamonds coming in. And I write 3 carat with a K, and she's like, okay, with diamonds, it's a C. You cannot do that. She wants everything to be just the right shade of purple. And she wants the layout changed every single month. So, like every month, there's a new offer, there's a new promotion. The landing page looks entirely different. It is impossible for me to catch up with what she needs. So I'm just saying there are a lot of tiny companies like TRE, like startups and all. If you can modify those pages and just send them to whoever owns them, or like whoever is the I guess owner is the right word, I don't know. But if you can reach out to a manager or somebody and tell them that, okay, this is what I can do and this is good. If you provide them a real life example, I don't know if you would have the time to make something like that, but that would be great, I guess. I don't know if that helps.
Oh,
I would sort of add to that. My big thing when I think about portfolios, it's rare that they're going to get you the job, but they can be helpful for 2 reasons. One is as just sort of a proof of concept, try and get you in for the interview. Not every place is going to care, but some do. The other is it gives you an excuse to work on your skills. Now, the one thing I would really point out in an interview is just having some awareness of what it is you want to show off. If you're a designer, you obviously want to design it yourself. The other catch is making sure that there's nothing in there that distracts from what you do want to show off. And where I'm going with that is if you are not a designer, please do not try and design your own website, because then it might look terrible and it will distract from your code, which is the important thing. Are you wanting to show off your JavaScript? Probably have some JavaScript in there. Are you wanting to show off your React skill? Generally, you're probably not building a portfolio in React, but that's not the point. Be aware of what it is you want to display. Make sure that is front and center, and make sure that nothing is pulling focus away from that. A cluttered portfolio is sometimes worse than no portfolio. So just be very, very aware. I have seen interview candidates get tanked in an interview by showing off something that was distracting from what they were trying to point out in the first place. And then I've seen the people say, why did they show us that? I don't understand. Did you see this thing over here in the corner? So just draw focus to what you want and avoid pulling focus from that same thing. Simpler is sometimes better.
Audra, anything to add? Thank you, Owen. I think that was super, super helpful and very relevant.
I agree. As someone who did design their own portfolio and is not a designer, definitely went with simple as best. Still ended up looking like a early 90s TV show. It's just blue. But yeah, definitely focus on like what you want to show. And when you're in an interview, it helps if like that's what you are showing. You don't need a huge gallery of projects. You need your best foot forward. If you have a project that you did that maybe isn't your best work, you don't have to put that on there. They don't need to know. They're not going to go, oh, they have 17 half-finished projects. That's better than the person who has 3. Like, really just put your best self out there. And if you have like no projects that you're like, I want to share this with the world, you can work on one while you job hunt, or like you can put out other work that you've done, or maybe fixes that you've made, or stuff that you want to do. Like, don't put something out there because you feel like you have to.
Thank you, Audra. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There's some phenomenal questions in the Q&A. We have under 10 minutes left, so we're not going to get a chance to answer all of them, unfortunately. Somebody is taking our networking advice already and saying that they're a web developer and designer and they're looking for a job. So if anyone has a role, please reach out to them and they will send you your resume. I love this networking. I love taking advantage of this opportunity to put yourself out there. We have a question about what technologies do I need to know to start a career as a web developer? What do we think?
HTML, CSS, JavaScript. There's other stuff you could learn, you know, but those are the 3 basics. I would say you want to know at least those 3. Quick answer.
Disagree. Have anything to add?
I can add something based on my experience. So I struggled a lot with the taxation part of things. If you already know basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and you want to study an API, like make a one-page app, learn Stripe. No matter, I think 90% of the websites have some kind of a payment mechanism in them, and they most of the time will use Stripe or PayPal. So if you know Stripe versus if you don't know Stripe, I think you'll be like it's a very good learning curve. So those who don't, I think Stripe is a good one.
And I would like to build on my own answer. I liked how short and sweet it was, and I was like, yeah, I'm cutting out. But now I have more thoughts. The job hunt's long. It can be very long. So when you have learned those 3 basics, just like Shaishav said, great suggestion. If you're like, all right, I got those 3, but you're still job hunting, start tossing in more things, because a lot of jobs get hyper-specific. Stripe's a great example of that. React is a great example. If you want to learn Angular, nobody wants to learn Angular. So they're always looking for people because it's brutal. So feel free to look into Angular. I work, the job I have, PHP was a big selling point. There is any number of possible things out there that could be the one to get you the job. I promise you, if you're like, it'll definitely be this one, that's not a guarantee. But start with those 3, and then just like Shaishav said, start looking to like Stripe, React, Angular, PHP, whatever, while you have the time. Because once you're employed, it's going to be a lot harder to find that time.
Thank you, Owen. Thank you, thank you. And that's a great point, that the tech stack you have is not always the tech stack you end up using in your role. My husband is also a web developer, and he was actually hired at a company, and they liked the fact that he was a new grad with 0 web development experience, because the company he works for is a company of old school developers who have been coding for 30 plus years. And they were basically like, we want to hire somebody to come in with no experience, and we're gonna, like, they knew he knew how to code, and they were basically like, we're gonna teach you these technologies that no one uses anymore, because I don't want you coming in with your fancy React and recoding our website. So they were basically like, we see that you know how to code, you know the essentials, you know JavaScript, you know HTML, you know CSS. We're gonna teach you these new things. So like, if you know the essentials, if you can show that you can code, your tech stack sometimes is not going to be the make or break aspect. If they like you, if they like your personality, if you know the fundamentals, they will be happy to train you. And for all you new grads out there who don't have the experience, that's a perfect example. People love hiring new grads because they want to be able to train you. And I say this in the best way possible, kind of mold you into the person they want you to be in the job. So if you're worrying that you don't have enough work experience, use that as a good thing. Okay, we have 3 minutes left. I'm gonna end it off. I don't think we have time for another question. I'm so, so sorry to all of you people who we did not answer questions for. You had amazing, amazing questions in the chats. Shaishav, Owen, and Audra, if you are open to it, please feel free to drop like your LinkedIn in the chat if you don't mind people connecting with you, or however else you'd like to be connected with. Any other suggestions? Or I think Shaishav, you mentioned earlier, like Tech Tank, I'll drop the link to that in the chats. Anything like that. And thank you so, so much for joining us, everybody. Like I said, I will post this on YouTube tomorrow, if you would like to rewatch it. I hope to see you at another Devant event in the future. And as I was saying, Devant does have our annual Get Hired at Home event. It is coming on February 22nd. We have some really, really cool employers who are going to be there. I don't think we have Tim Hortons confirmed. We've got the City of Toronto confirmed. We've got Sun Life Financial. Tons and tons of very cool employers who are going to be at this event. We're hiring for active roles. It is totally free to attend as a job seeker, so please feel free to register. And our February 21st event is prep for the event. So if you've never had a virtual interview before, you've never been to a virtual hiring event, that February 21st event the night before will help you prepare for it. All right, any final words, everybody? We've got 1 more minute.
Just, this is hard. You're doing great. Please don't give up on yourself. And if you ever need a pep talk, I'm happy to have you reach out to me.
Owen is the best for pep talks. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please join me in thanking our wonderful panel for sharing their evening with us. And I hope to see you all soon. Have a great evening and take care. Bye.